These people, they're mad scientists. They really are. The day we had the lawsuit decision, the idea was that we were going to meet at the Long Hall, the sort of anarchist meeting hall in Berkeley, or North Oakland. And since I was the only person who had gone out to the test site, it was really critical for me to be there because no one knew where the test site was. And it's just all dirt forever, as you can see in that thing. And so what happened was I had driven out there with the attorney, the San Francisco attorney, and after we lost, I didn't realize that we were going to appeal it. And so these guys worked until just before 5 o'clock and made a huge stack of paper to submit for the appeal. And then we had to sit around for several hours to wait for the judges. So it was like 8 or 9 o'clock by the time the judges gave us a ruling and we lost. Okay, so we should be going back now. Well, no, I didn't realize that the attorneys would want to get drunk afterward. So my ride was going into the bar. And I didn't get home until about 1 in the morning. And the test was just hours away, and nobody knew where the test site was. So, crap, how are these people going to get out there to pull up the plants? Well, there were about 30 people, including a very, very famous person, who went there. And when I got home, I checked my answering machine, and the first call said, "Oh, Andy, we're going to go out there and do a candlelight vigil." Candlelight vigil, oh no. And I didn't have a car, I think, and so I couldn't drive out there. I needed a ride. And a reporter who I had worked with, that's the other thing too, is I would work with these reporters. I give them all the time they wanted. So this guy was with KUSP, I think the NPR station in Santa Cruz. Well, he had called up and left a message, but it was very weird. He left 2 numbers. And so I, for some reason, thought the second phone number would be like an answering machine in the office. And it was like, oh no, okay, so he had left that. And then as I listened to the messages play back, I then found that my friends had gone out there to pull up the plants. And so I did this weird thing where I thought, well, crap. I changed my clothes as if I was going to go out there and pull up the plants, but I had no way of getting out there, so I put on my grungy clothes underneath, and then I put on this Monkey Wrench Gang t-shirt, and then I put on a flannel shirt, and then that black sports coat. And so I then called up about 4 o'clock in the morning. I called up the KUSP guy, and it turned out it was a phone into his bedroom, so he answered it. And he just wanted to know what had happened in court. And I told him, and then I told him, what was going on. And he says, "Oh, I'll give you a ride." So this guy in Santa Cruz, which is, close to an hour and a half from Berkeley, was going to put on his clothes, drive out to Berkeley, pick me up, and then drive another hour out to Brentwood so that we could get there by the time they did the test. So I guess maybe it was earlier that I called him, like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. And so that's how I was dressed, and he drove me out there, and when I got there, there were a couple of 100 reporters from around the world, because this was the first GMO test in the environment on the planet. And so they were, press around the world was dealing with this as if it was the moon landing or something. And so I'm standing there, and they've got guards. And I'm going, oh, crap, how can I get in there? They're not going to let me get in there. I wanted to go in and talk to some of the reporters. And so this guard standing there, and he asked if I had a press pass, and I looked like a reporter. And I patted my chest down like, oh, crap, what did I do? I'm so tired, I forgot it. And then I look over at the car driving off, and he's got a bumper sticker for KUSP. So he could tell that I was with the radio station. So he let me in. Well, there were 3 really cool reporters on TV that I'd especially worked with. That guy Randy Shandobill, you heard. What's her name? I'll think of it. And then Hank Plant. And Hank Plant was the guy who talked about the court case. And so I saw Hank Plant right up against the fence on the outer part of the site with his videographer. And I go running right up to him. And I'm standing there next to him, talking to him. And his videographer kind of moved on the street side of me. So I'm kind of closed in with the fence and the 2 guys and the camera. And so Perry Continenti comes walking by, and I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to get the attention of all of these reporters? I want to tell them, what we think about this. And Perry sees me with the reporter, and he goes, "Andy, get off my property right now!" Well, that got the attention of all these reporters. And they all came running around me and kind of blocked me off from the street, so I couldn't really get off the property. And then that cop or sheriff, whatever he was, felt really stupid that he's the one who let me on the property. So he comes up to me and is trying to get me to leave, and I do a back and forth with him, kind of like what you saw with me at the AGS headquarters. Why? Why won't he come down? Da-da-da. And so I said, well, why do I have to go? And then he asked for my ID, and I took some time to pull up my ID. And then when he finally escorted me, that's when you saw me stomping down the strawberry plants. They actually had a second plot of strawberry plants outside. I don't know why that was the case, but they did. And so again, I think about it now and it's kind of stupid. It's like, why am I hurting the plants? But it was just a sign of resistance. And I think that kind of worked. That we weren't going, even I was going to do something to fuck them up, Fuck shit up was definitely a term that you heard said by Earth Firsters circa the 80s and 90s. And so by the time I got to the end of that row of strawberries, there was this bank of probably 13, 14, 15 TV cameras, this wall, and that's where they shot the stuff where I said they're mad scientists. These people, they're mad scientists. They really are. And so what happened was I'm standing there looking at them, and I start taking off my clothes. Take off the sports coat, and you see me with the flannel shirt. Take off the flannel shirt, and you get the monkey wrench gang. It was like, surprise! I'm one of those guys after all. And so those guys interviewed me, and that's where the clip was, and then...
This man, escorted off the field by deputies, Andy Caffrey has been one of the altered bacteria test's biggest critics and sided with the vandals.
I fully support people doing this. They've waited for the courts to respond, and you have a bunch of judges who are ignorant. I mean, it's a travesty that judges would have to decide something like this.
Only one protester showed up at Friday's sunrise test. He was promptly ejected.
Until you have a Bhopal or Chernobyl, you can't stop things like this. These people, they're mad scientists. They really are.
There's only a small chance that this organism will do damage. But if it does do damage, the event can be catastrophic.
And I guess we just drove back. Now, I got out there, and I also wasn't expecting that the plants were pulled up. I didn't know. Oh, I guess I did. Yeah, that's right. I'd gotten 1 or 2 messages at the end of that night of listening to the answer machine, where they said something very cryptic about having done it or something. And I had no idea. So it turns out.
Knew really about the fear of science, the human resistance to scientific experimentation, but the fuss over a genetically engineered material called Frostban has been exceptional, even for these times. Furor over Frostban and a look ahead at the future of genetic engineering.
At 10 o'clock news, the government issues its air travel scorecard for October, and San Francisco Airport gets a big F.
And someone has sabotaged the latest experiment with a man-made life form. Those stories when Dennis and I come back.